Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Leaders in Public Health, where we unpack real world leadership stories from people shaping healthier systems. I'm your host, Amjad Saeed, and today I'm honored to sit down with Professor Anna Peters. Anna is a globally recognized public health expert and advocate for health equity, appointed recently as a CEO of Victoria Health, which is the first World Health Promotion Foundation. She brings decades of experience in collaboration, epidemiology, health system transformation, and policy driven research. Professor Peters has been internationally recognized for her work toward equitable health outcomes. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining me today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Anna, what is your philosophy of leadership? How you define leadership and like your personal perspective of leadership?
Yeah, it's a great question, and well done on the podcast. I think it's really great to listen to people who've reached, positions of, potential influence, because I think all our paths are so different. Just one quick little correction. So the organisation is called Vic Health. And so it's the Victorian Health Promotion Agency. So we are an agency of government, but we're not the health department for Victoria. We're an agency. Just a small correction. So yeah, back to your question. I think for me, like the idea of leadership is really trying to set a vision that's exciting and inspiring and trying to support and enable people to achieve that vision. So it's really working with people to identify what are our common goals, what's the direction we want to go in and why, and then trying to help unlock all the capability, whether it's, resource or time or connections and partnerships to achieve those outcomes. And I guess you've probably got lots of specific questions, but I think if I think of leaders, they are people that I could listen to forever, talk with forever, and go on a journey with forever. They're people that you really like to have by your side, I think.
Yeah, speaking of that, people you want to talk with them is when you like close your eyes and think about people, sorry. What is the common skills or common features for these people?
Yeah, well, for me, I think it's about on the sort of interpersonal side, I think definitely like a capacity to listen and hear other people,
Mm.
and also like a sort of a bravery in being able to communicate what the leader themselves thinks. So being quite open and honest and transparent. So I think there's a lot in the interpersonal communication that's critical for a leader, that sort of two-way exchange. And then I think in terms of being able to get things done and achieve things, then I think there are skills around sort of clarity of thinking and purpose, and this idea of perhaps envisioning a future, envisioning a destination. So they're some of the critical ones for me.
Like active listening, transparent and honest, and getting things done and being brave.
Yeah.
So, Anna, are these like features some people born with it or like learn it through the process or through the journey?
I think you can be both. Like, I definitely think leadership can be built and developed. I think possibly the only main barrier or two main barriers perhaps to leadership are if that's not what you're interested in, that's not what you want, then I think that's not
Mm,
where you go. And also perhaps if you don't have the capacity to learn. And so not everybody's great at self-reflection. And I think you can definitely build that over time. But I think you have to be open to learning to be a good leader. And sometimes that might be a bit of a block for people.
I see. Tell me more about self-reflection.
Well, I think that, they talk a lot about people kind of rising in organizations to their level of capacity. And that to me assumes that everyone has a fixed level of capacity. And I just don't see that to be true. I see people learning all the time. And I see like diversity being really enriching. So there's not one way of doing things. There's not one way of, leading an organization or achieving an outcome or supporting people to develop. And so I think the way to kind of unlock the richness of what's available across all people is to be willing to learn, both as an individual and then as a collective. And so to be willing to learn, I do think you need a little bit of self-reflection. But that might be an interesting topic of conversation because I don't think everybody is so interested in self-reflection. But personally, I think it's really important.
So it's like really important for leadership or building, like knowing yourself better. So it's hard to lead people if you don't know yourself. But
Yeah.
putting that
And
in,
hard to improve, I think, because
yeah,
nobody's perfect. And so I think if you want to be a really good, well-rounded leader, you need to be able to assess where you're not leading so well. What is the aspect you're not doing so well, and how do you improve that? And so I think there's a kind of interrelationship there between self-reflection and learning.
how? If we want like to do that right away from daily habits, build that habit. Is it like writing or talking with someone? Like, what is your strategies of like self-reflection as a leader?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it depends how you like to learn as a person. I think all those things work. So, me personally, I like lists. So I have, yeah, lists. I have processes where, perhaps when I was younger, it would be like every 12 months, I'd set my goals for the year and then I'd reflect on what was going well, what wasn't going well, what did I need to learn. And then it got more frequent and more frequent. And now I would say there's almost like a weekly practice of kind of summing up the week in my head or on a list of notes, like what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, what do I need to think about more, what might I need to read about, who might I need to talk to. So I kind of do that on a much more rapid kind of basis now. But I do think you can do it by, like some people have a coach, which can be really useful. So by talking to someone, some people have a peer network, which I think is also useful. It can be by reading, like there are lots of really interesting short articles out there, I think, on how to be a better leader. And sometimes you read those and you think, oh, that's relevant to me, that's not relevant to me. So however it works for you. But as I said, I'm someone who likes quite a systematic approach to these things and do it quite regularly.
Wow, that's fabulous. I heard like some people they do like a visionary board just to set like yourself for a vision and then write your goals and follow up. But what I really like you mentioned that is doing that in weekly basis.
Yes.
I see. So
And it's not a big formal process. It's just setting some time aside. I like to walk. I take my dog for a walk every day. So often it's while I'm walking, I might just talk into my phone notes app and say, oh, these are some things that I've learned today that I need to make sure I pick up on in future.
I see. So like you do it on daily basis, but for the list, you do it like in weekly basis.
Yes, that's right.
And sometimes it's not that systematic in daily basis. You just like think
Yeah,
about it in your head or just, oh,
that's right.
that's
Yeah,
really amazing.
yeah.
I know if you like going back in your first day as a leader, what are you, and you had the chance to whisper something or to whisper an advice for Anna that time, what that would be?
That's a good question. I mean, one of the things I think is important to say is that I never had a goal of leadership. Like it's something that's just evolved over time. It's not something that I found interesting in and of itself. My goal has always been, to make a change in the world and to improve health and well-being with a really strong focus on equity. And the questions that I keep asking myself are, how could I do this more? How can I be more useful? How can I do it with broader reach, broader scale? And that necessarily means working with more people and, reaching more people, supporting more people. And so kind of leadership falls out of that, I think. I'm not someone who's interested in leadership for its own sake. And so perhaps I was a bit hesitant to take on that mantle, I think, early on. So I think I'd tell myself two things. One thing that I would tell myself is don't overthink it. You're going to have a lot of fun and it's going to go really well. But the second one, I think, is perhaps to embrace the idea of leadership a bit earlier.
How?
I think I was always a little bit like I found that whole idea of, imposter syndrome, etc. I think I always avoided that topic a little bit. I was like, oh, I'm just going to do my work. And then my work expanded and expanded and expanded. And then at one point, when I was leading a big institute, I was like, okay, I'm in the leadership game now. And then that enabled me to, as I was just saying before, read a lot more about what does good leadership look like, what are some things you might need to think about. I think if I had accepted that a bit earlier, I just would have started reading and engaging all those things earlier, which just would have been useful, I think.
Lovely. You mentioned like really interesting word, which is imposter syndrome. How like a person could realize they have that syndrome?
Oh, I think most people do. I mean, everybody I've ever spoken to has talked about feeling like a bit of an imposter in some setting at some time. So I think the minute you feel like you're not talking, you're not able to contribute at the level that you want to in a certain meeting or a forum or, with a written product, that is that feeling of imposter syndrome where you think, oh, I'm in this space, but I shouldn't be. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I'm outside my comfort zone. I think they're all indicators. And I guess what I learned for me personally, I started to see it as feeling like I was outside my comfort zone. And I learned eventually that that was a good sign, that I knew that if I was outside my comfort zone, then I was moving to the next stage of learning or progress or leadership or anything. And that it was always going to be a transition period where I had to actively work out what were my gaps, what did I need to build, learn to kind of move through that transition period. So although I still would feel uncomfortable in that, outside my comfort zone, I've learned to quite embrace it, I would say.
Hmm. I think that stage or that phase, most of the people feel like doubts and
Yes.
time they doubt themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that phase they need more validation. What is like the strategies that maybe you used or you read about or learn how we deal with these doubts and the transition of like being out of the comfort zone?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I feel like I'm saying the same thing a lot of different ways today, which is interesting. But I guess my response to that is now, and probably always was, but now more intentionally, okay, what do I need to do to move through that transition period? Like, what don't I know? I'm going to go and learn that. What am I concerned about? I'm going to have a conversation about that. So really tackling head on um, the causes of the doubts, if you like, and so not pretending they don't exist, but working out how am I going to learn, build, grow, to move through that. So I think more than validation. Um, for me, it was about building the confidence that when I was in a transition period, I would work out how to build the skills and knowledge, and connections I needed to be able to play in that new space.
Lovely. Uh, we're gonna move toward like when you talk about people and leadership is about like talking to people, shaping teams. Uh, it's often about like empowering others. How do you create an environment where your team feels trusted and motivated? And maybe before that is how you choose your team as a leader. What is like I think from my readings and from like little experience or no experience on that is I think that is the hardest part, how to create the team and how you keep the momentum to like achieve that great vision. So tell me more about it, like creating teams and choose the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very big question with lots of parts in it, I would say. I mean, I think what's worth talking about? I mean, one thing that's worth talking about is probably, I think it's really important for you as a leader to develop some clarity about what you need the team to be able to do.
Mm,
So I think the minute it becomes interpersonal, it's always trickier. So I think for a little while, just holding, okay, what's the purpose of this team? What are we trying to achieve? How are we trying to achieve it? And then I think you're more able to work out with each person, right, what's your role in this team? And
mm,
then you can assess more readily, are you able to achieve that? And if not, maybe it's a fit problem. It's not that you're not good or you shouldn't be here. It's either that you're not the right fit or you just haven't learned the skills yet. And then you can work together a bit more. I think the general point I would make is I've had to have difficult conversations with a number of people saying, I don't think this is the right fit for you. or I think we really need to boost this kind of skill area. But what I hope that I've managed to do is make them much more joint conversations. So what is our joint goal? It's to achieve, this outcome in this team. Are we achieving it? Possibly not to the level that we think we should be. And what are we collectively going to do about it? So that doesn't mean that everybody likes those conversations, but I think it's a more kind of honest representation of the fact that not everybody can do every job. And then together you need to work out, is it worth trying to continue to build those skills? Is it worth trying to continue, to kind of increase someone's capacity? Or is it the time to say we've both tried enough and actually you're better off trying to find a different role which has a better fit with your skills and your capacity and your interests? So I think in general, I'm very pretty transparent and open with people and try and really hold the clarity around why we're all in this thing together.
The clarity and transparent. I think these
Mm.
are the critical points. And I believe some leaders, they have, I think most of the leaders having like really high level of responsibility. And sometime when they want to achieve something, it's hard for them to delegate to the team.
Yeah.
So I think I was reading about it, is like the skill of delegation. What is the best approach? So like people who's really responsible and they want to achieve it in a certain way, how they could improve that, or like adopt that skill of trust their team and delegate them.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think it is one of the difficult areas. And again, I think from my perspective, it's about having the right conversations so that everybody's clear. And people will be different. Like some people will want to micromanage more. Some will, their tendency will be to really be really hands off, and people find that difficult too, right? Having not enough direction. So I think the kind of the trick is to be intentional, be self-aware and self-reflective, and then to have conversations that acknowledge that perhaps as a leader, your level of micromanagement or hands off may or may not fit this person very well. And then let's work out how we might, move up or down that continuum together so there's a better fit. I think it is important, something I've certainly learned is to think really intentionally about what are the things that I absolutely need to have seen all the detail of before they go out of the office. Because if there was a mistake in those, it would be a disaster from my perspective. And what are the things where I just need the general idea that it was done well or it was done according to the specifications, and then I don't need to read all the detail. So I think as a leader, you can be quite intentional about, these are the super important documents that I need to have read every word in. And these are the ones where I'm completely clear that you've got the capability to have read every word, and I will just, skim through the paragraphs and that's enough.
That's really like, mm, I see. I see. It's really an amazing tip. Just going to public health, which is our last part. Public health leadership means like dealing with uncertainty. And there's a lot of uncertainty in that part. How do you make decisions when there is no perfect answers? And to be honest, I think that part is the hardest, is how, as a human being, we fear uncertainty, and especially complex public health field. There's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of questions that is unanswered. How can you navigate as a leader with all that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Again, I think it's trying to be really clear on what you're trying to achieve in any given moment and working out really like being able to do quite rapid assessments, I think, of like the risks and benefits of any, one path. So as an example, I mean, I would spend a lot of time in my own head thinking, okay, in this case, is something better than nothing? If something's better than nothing, then I'm not going to worry too much about which of the somethings we choose. I'm just going to allow the group to choose something and then we're done, right?
Mm,
Whereas if it's a case where actually there are two or three options and they all have really big risk and benefit profiles, then we're going to get the team to work out the full risk and benefit profile of each option.
mm,
And we'll make a decision together because it will become clear that one has slightly fewer risks and slightly more benefits. In other kind of instances, I think it's around just finding the joint goal. And so it might be like in the sort of complex public health space, it might be more around what's the win-win-win option that we've got in front of us so that, all the different partners can feel like they're behind it, because what's really important in that instance is having buy-in from everybody so they continue to progress, the chosen decision going forward. So again, I think it requires a little bit of either like strategic writing down in a systematic way, or self-reflection, or working with your peers to be quite clear and intentional about what's the purpose of the decision being made. And therefore, that will tell you, I think, like the risk thresholds about maybe you don't have to overthink it, maybe you do have to overthink it, who needs to be involved, and how do you kind of think through what's the most important thing about this decision? Is it the choice? Is it whether we're committed to it? Is it who's involved in it? And I think that can really help you.
I can't like tie it to the features of great leaders, which is brave. So I think to navigate that, you should be brave to make these decisions, definitely. Um, when you're talking, I sense that there's a lot of things you do and you hold some roles, a lot of roles, and you think a lot in your brain and you write down and like you're doing voice notes as well. So there's a lot of things happening around you. How you navigate that with your life is h- like we work in public health and as well we have to take health of ourselves. So how you organize your day and like between family, between yourself, between friends, between work. So what is your strategy of make that
Yeah.
system?
Again, I feel like I'm a broken record today. I think for me, it's been about being clear and intentional. So I remember, so my children now are 20 and 21. But I remember when they were born thinking a lot. Like I got a lot of conflicting advice. You should work full time and, get people to help you. You should work part time and, you shouldn't work at all. And I remember thinking, okay, I just need to work out what's really important to me. And I decided that the things that were important to me were I wanted to keep working because I really liked it. I wanted good quality time at home with my children. And then everything else had to fit in around that. And so I just sort of made some decisions for myself that, at that time I was going to, work 3 days, be home 2 days. And then later on when they were at school, I did, lots of half days. And once I'd made that decision, then I backed it in. Then I was like, this is what I'm going to make work. I'm not going to be apologetic for it. I'm not going to second guess myself. And so I think I still do that. Like I've just come off the back of, I took a day off yesterday to go with a girlfriend down, one of the peninsulas to have some lovely time out and not think about work, just because I knew I would need some time to recharge. So for me, it's about like thinking about what's really important and holding the few most important things, and then accepting that everything else just has to fit around that.
Very practical advice.
Very practical person.
Yeah, I like it. Um, Lastly, what is your advice for the next generation of public health professionals who listen to us now?
I mean, it's very personal, so it doesn't mean it's the right advice for everyone, but I'm a really strong believer in do what you really love. And I think if you do what you really love, it's usually what you're quite good at, and things flow from there. I don't feel like you need to, plan everything and overthink everything. I think if you kind of have good intentions and you like what you're doing, my experience is most things fall into place over time.
With patience.
With patience, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and just holding a few things, not having to have everything perfect, just a few things tight. Then over time, there's the possibility for more to build.
Lovely. Finally, what kind of leadership will public health need most over the next decades? Just maybe like in few words.
Yeah, I think collaborative, really. I think it's all about working with people. So I think moving from that sort of command and control model to exactly as you said, how do we collaboratively work with a range of partners and team members to hold complexity and uncertainty? It's all about, I think, partnership, relationships, and collaboration.
That's really great. Anna, thank you for sharing your insights.
Pleasure.
A masterclass actually in leadership for all of our listeners. Thank you so much and glad to speak to you today.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. Good luck with the rest of your podcast.